Welcome to The War at Home, Then and Now. This is episode 2, a conversation with co-director Glenn Silber. Let's listen in.
When you see The War at Home, when we released it, I think what blew everyone's mind was that here it was just a few years after the war had ended, and yet we had somehow compiled this unbelievable collection of footage from the period. And people didn't quite believe I had shot it at the time because I wasn't there for a lot of the scenes that are depicted. But what you see in the film is a chronicle of this really almost 10-year period from the first demonstration in 1963 until the end of the war, the U.S. role in the war in early 73. Now, when you're not a very experienced filmmaker and you're trying to figure out how to tell the story, it helps if you do your research. So it started with a couple friends and I going back through all the old Time magazines, Newsweek magazines, whatever history was available already on what had happened in the war that was the bigger benchmarks in the war over this time period as the U.S. got drawn more deeply into the war. But equally important for us, because we were telling the war at home, was what was the response to these events? What all happened from this period? And so by going back, believe it or not, into the student newspaper, the Daily Cardinal, which was quite good, and also into the main town's newspaper, the Capital Times, we were able to really understand the period. And then doing interviews with people that were very involved, we got to be able to really decipher what were the key moments that needed to be talked about and who were the people that were there. So that research was going on, but at the same time, we were just starting. I got my big break on the film, which was probably the biggest break I'd ever gotten in my career. I'd been going to the Wisconsin Historical Society regularly, a couple times a week, looking for photos, looking for audio recordings, maybe home movie footage. And I was coming up, frankly, with nothing. I was surprised that there wasn't more material, but then again, it was only a few years after the 60s, and I was told, well, these things take a while to get into our historical society. I was being a little bit of a nuisance, and then one day the big break came along when the head of the Wisconsin Historical Society's film and photo department called me over and he said, okay, Glenn Silber, today might be your big break. No, he said, today might be your lucky day. And I said, okay, George, what's up? He said, well, we just got this collection of film in from the ABC News affiliate, WKOW. And they just delivered to us a couple hundred boxes of every frame of film they shot from 1959 through 1972. Film that was shot on film on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, and that was recording the events of what happened in Madison, Wisconsin. So I said, wow. He said, yeah, well, our problem is we have no money to get into it. We're broke always. And, it's just a mess. It's just box after box with, they finish the news, they put it on a reel, they throw it in a box. And if we're lucky, at least there's a date on it. And so what I'm looking for is someone who will take the time and carefully go through it to, first of all, tell us what's in all of these, these reels are full of news film. It's probably not in good shape. So we'd like you to clean the film and repair the splices. And, and really take notes on what's in it. And it's going to take a long time because there's a lot of material. And if you want to do that, or if you have someone you want to, like a film researcher you want to hire, we'll make you a deal that, call it like a sweat equity deal. You do the work, you do the sweat, and when it's over, you can use any of this footage for free. So I said, I couldn't shake his hand more quickly to make a deal. It was amazing. I went from having very little, if not anything, to illustrate the film and tell the story of this experience, this 7, 8, maybe even 10-year experience in Madison, Wisconsin. And now, all of a sudden, I had hit the mother lode. And before much longer went on, over the next few months, the other TV stations heard about it, the CBS affiliate, WISC, and the NBC affiliate, WMTV, and they all wanted to clear out their closets full of this film. They didn't have quite the heart to throw it away. And so they gave that to the Historical Society. So now we had hundreds and hundreds of boxes of film to go through. Well, we were just getting started, and I knew I had to raise some money. But I had a friend in Boston who I consulted with about who might be a good person to do this research. And he said, well, my roommate, Barry Alexander Brown, is dying to get into film. And I have a feeling if I talk to him about what you're doing, he would like to join you. So he did. And I talked to Barry, and Barry came out to Madison to live in a friend's house with us. And, he thought he'd be out there for 6 months. He thought he'd be, going through this film footage, and he'd get his first film credit, and he'd go back to Boston, by the end of the year. Well, that's not quite what happened. Barry came into Madison. We set him up at the Historical Society with what they call an editing flatbed that can show the material, and you can look at it on a screen. And after the first day, he told me, we went over to the student union for, I don't know, coffee or a beer. He said, you're not going to believe it. The first box I opened was of this amazing demonstration in 1967 where the students were sitting in to protest Dow Chemical. That was the company that made napalm, and they were doing kind of like an old style, civil rights style sit-in, and they were going to be carried away nonviolently, except for the fact that the police started cracking heads, and it became an infamous police riot. Anyway, so he said, this is the first box I've looked at. I have a feeling we're going to make a very good film. We have a chance here to make something great. So that was exciting. And from that point forward, we had a plan. And the plan was to identify we wrote this treatment, like 100-page guidepost of what was going to be in the film and what footage he'd already found about it. And so who were some of the people that went to these events? And we spent a full year researching before we shot a single frame. And I think we did it the right way, because when we finally did raise a few $1,000s after a year to start filming, we knew where we were going.
The War at Home, Then and Now is a Virtuoso production. Music by Studio 584 Inc. Visit the website www.thewarathome.tv to learn more about the film. The War at Home is now streaming on many platforms, including Amazon Prime and YouTube.